What are we waiting for? As I was growing up, Christmas was a celebration of the birth of a Savior who would intervene so that we would be found worthy of heaven. The focus was on the hereafter. That was my dad and mom's religion. But in college, I rejected the focus on the afterlife and was concerned with how the life and teachings of Jesus applied to life now. And salvation was based on the premise that people were basically evil, that only intervention from God, such as through his son Jesus, would be adequate, which I did not believe. So where did that leave the whole message of Christmas? At seminary, I came to believe that Jesus was not God, but a man who had developed a special relationship with God. And the Trinity was a way to try to describe the indescribable. Salvation, then, was right relation with God rather than being saved from sin. I remember observing Advent at the Methodist church my family attended and the Advent calendars we had at home. I could not wait to open the window every morning. Advent is to Christmas as Lent is to Easter. Each Christmas, and indeed each Easter, I have to face the person of Jesus. What do his life and death, or rather his living and dying, have to do with my own spiritual journey? And the answer may be that Jesus is a spiritual teacher for me. But these times of preparation challenge me to intentionally consider how I fit into Christianity. In reality, it has been in keeping Advent and Christmas for everyone else in my family that has challenged me. The book, The Old Story of Salvation, which I just read, was published in 1955. It gives biblical stories of the 7 great ages of time, from creation through Revelation. The theme of the Bible is the God-human relations. This story of God's interactions with humans to keep them working toward good. The need to be redeemed from evil is a story that comes out of the Bible when people approach the Bible looking for it. Now, is this relationship generated from the view of God or from the view of humanity? What I understand from this book is that God's search for connection with humanity is to keep man from being insular or only concerned with himself. We need to reach out, connect to something beyond ourselves. The element of free will is always there. God provided the opportunities, and there was definitely consequences to decisions, just as there are consequences to all our actions. And the old salvation story, basically saving us from ourselves through eternal love. Another way of explaining the need for God in our lives is found in the writings of Carl Jung. The concept and description and relationship with God started as a projection of people's minds, a way to explain the events that were indefinable, like the changing of the seasons, day and night, hurricanes, storms, etc. Jung had an entire evolution of the concept of God throughout civilization. Even with this human-to-God approach, there is a sense of something beyond ourselves. And when we get to the New Testament, or Christian scriptures, we do not clearly have the faith of Jesus, but rather, if the early Christian church came to believe, about Jesus. For about 2 centuries, they were generally taken to be, well, gospel or the truth. And the awareness of writings that were not included in the Bible show that what is commonly held as truth is not complete, but rather the choices of the compilers. The writings that were not included in the Bible came to be considered as heretical. Are there many? Just look at the collections such as the Other Bible, written in 1984, which has over 700 pages, double column, single spaced. And there have been more writings and interpretations since. They're just the ones that didn't get picked. Early in my readings of the Gospels, I was left with the distinct impression that Jesus was speaking of each person as being of value and worth. The stories of interactions with various people and various types of people reinforce that. Of course, that would be my finding. I started with a personal premise or belief and read to find proof of my hypothesis. I approached the Gospels the same way that the compilers of the Bible did, looking for things that support my expectations. Religion arises from the culture. Jewish and Christian heritage from a patriarchal society. The culture changes and the relationship with God changes. In 1947, for example, findings of the manuscripts in caves and the Dead Sea Scrolls brought new texts to the forefront. 2,000 years ago, the Jews lived under the control of the Romans. Between 250 BCE and 100 AD, there was a sect of Jews numbering about 4,000 called the Essenes. They lived in a communal fashion with a focus on simplicity and purity, the remnant of an older tradition about a teacher of righteousness. I took a Dead Sea Scrolls class, and all through was talking about the teacher of righteousness, a great angel. A contemporary group has taken up the tradition since the discovery of the Essenes writing as part of the Dead Sea Scrolls. The ancient Essenes were planning for the coming of the Messiah, not a person, but an energy field, an awareness that they believed entered human existence every 2,000 years. The energy that entered human existence 2,000 years ago was love of one human being for another simply because he or she is worthy of love and a valued part of the human family. There is some speculation that Jesus was familiar with and may have been a part of the Essenes, a messenger for this love energy. For this millennium, the group expands the message to, you and I are not only brothers and sisters, we are one. There really is no other. The other is an illusion, reflected in the infinite rainbow of seeming difference. Behind the illusion, we are one. Everyone. No one is excluded. That's from the 1999 Essene Book of Days. And scholars have brought forth new interpretations of early writings. Example is the Lord's Prayer that I use during meditation. This version has come from reinterpretation of original Aramaic texts by Neil Douglas Platts. Many of the English translations are from the Greek text, but the language of Jesus was Aramaic. There are some thoughts that the Greek text was used for translation to English as a way of discrediting the early Jewish Christians. The Jewish Christians had moved away from the need for sacrifice implied in the salvation story. And then there were the councils of Nicaea in the 4th century that determined that Jesus was God, and other theological positions by vote of bishops. Oh, the implications of early Christianity and ecclesiastical politics that shaped the Christian story that is prevalent today. I have found myself saying more and more that I cannot claim to be a Christian because of the connotation in this time. This actually makes me sad and angry. This is my heritage. Why do I have to give up my identity because it differs from the predominant story? If I believe that the message for this time is we are one, then the discovery of new text, well, old text and new translations, provides an opportunity to understand that there is more than one approach to the message of Jesus. Yes, more than one approach to the message of Jesus. Indeed, the message itself is more universal than the parameters placed by our Western interpretation. So is the story of salvation that is implied in the birth of Jesus still true? Absolutely. But the salvation is the divine working through just relations. And is Jesus my Savior? No. Jesus is my spiritual guide, showing the way to live in relation with the divine that is within and without, resulting in respect and dignity and worth of every person. So is the message of Christmas still relevant? Absolutely. The concept of birth is stretching for something new. New understanding, new ways of being in the world, new ways of living. But I am glad that Christmas comes only once a year. This searching for the new is hard work. Advent is a time of preparation, not just a time of waiting. So what I'm going to do to move toward making the gifts of Christmas a reality, first there is faith that is evident in the heritage of our living tradition sources. Mystery and wonder, challenges to confront evil with justice and compassion, wisdom for spiritual life, love as a universal force, science and reason, connectedness of all creation. Those are all in the UU traditions. For the first week, I'm going to commit to spending some time, notice I'm not saying how much time, to exploring various texts. And I would suggest that we all begin to engage in the old story of salvation. And for the second week, there is hope. Reflect back on the hymn, O come, Emmanuel. Emmanuel means God with us. Regardless of the concept of God, hope calls us to connect with something beyond ourselves. Everyone must choose how to relate to life. We always have the choice of whether we want to be defeated by or will embrace life. Hope is knowing that there is that choice. But, and there's still a condition here, for hope to be realized, we must be willing to engage in the options, to try new things, to expand our own views. So, for the second week, I'm going to commit to looking at my own way of life and how I reach out to what, to whom, and when. Hope is saying yes to life. And for the third week, there's joy. For me, one of the greatest pieces of music is Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee. The Marriage of Words by Henry Van Dyke and music by Beethoven. This is the joy of the day, the triumph of life that comes from a oneness within the universal force of love. Here personified as God, or in the words of a traditional carol, O thou joyful day, O thou joyful day, O thou blessed day, gladsome peaceful Christmas tide. Earth's hope awakened, love life has taken, joy, oh joy, to all at Christmas tide. Joy is what asks, how can I keep from singing? And for the fourth week, there's love. The poem, The Hound of Heaven, by Francis Thompson, published in 1893, is the pursuit of the Hound of Heaven, God, of the writer, with a focus on obtaining his love. This is the love of God reaching to man, the option that man has of rejecting the love, but the power of that love that overcomes this rejection. But going back to the Gospels, I find that the love of Jesus is a love of respect, expectation, and challenge. So, for this week of Advent, I'm going to look at the messages of love in the hymns and readings in the hymnal, in meditation manuals, and I'm going to name and honor the loves in my life. I would also like to say this is a perfect time for patience. This is the hard one. Patience with myself, with the universe, and with others who do not see things the way I do. No, I don't really want everyone to see the world as I do, because then I would not be able to learn other ways, other than the windows. But patience is a matter of time. Actually, patience will keep me focused on the respective jobs for each week of Advent. I have focused on my personal reflections for each week of Advent. And as I approach Advent and Christmas, I could say I'm selfish, I suppose. I don't know any other way to explain why I'm actually reading to engage in new discoveries on my spiritual journey. I'm excited about the coming of Christmas, and I am really ready to participate in Advent. So I would ask you to consider this year. What do you expect from Christmas? What do you want to find on Christmas morning? Are you going to prepare for the gifts during Advent? Regardless of your answers, may faith, hope, joy, love, and patience be your guide.